welcome back to Togetherness Media. This is Anthony Powers, and I'm so excited. I have my homeboy with me, Mr. Motoe Haus. We're going to be talking about, first of all, the incomparable Motoe Haus, DJ, musician, producer, writer, b-boy, activist, philanthropist, philosopher, and that's him right there. We're going to be showing like his video clip later on today. We're going like his entire DJ set later on today in the show. He's going to be rocking with us. We're so excited. But right now, we're about to have a little conversation with my man about how music unifies, the unifying power of music. Motoe, MFN Haus, what's good with your brother?
Hey, how you doing, Anthony? Nice to see you again, my friend. How's
you
everything
too,
going?
You too. So, one of the reasons you got into house music, period, into techno, into dance music, is because of the way it made you feel part of a community, the way it made you feel unified. And right now, this country has been going through so much disunity, so much confusion, so much turmoil, so much separation. We need some music to bring people back together.
Agreed, 100%. And I don't think that it's just music as a general word, you know, like a lot of people don't realize, and I don't know, maybe I'm saying this a little too publicly, I don't know. I've lost the will to care whether or not I have repercussions on the things I say a long time ago, so whatever, my bad. But music in 1980 was weaponized, and this is a reality.
440.
Yeah, the 440 hertz. And just so people that don't really understand what this was something that was instituted as called standardization of tuning, standard tuning, right? It's what all your DAWs, all your tuners, all your guitar tuners, little digital blah, blah, blahs, all the synthesizers, everything since then have come standard as this, right? The problem with this is that when you tune sound as what sound has always been with music in history, we deal with the mostly Pythagorean tuning, which is the tuning into how things just feel with no reference other than nature. And then you have solfeggio, which is tuning to the sun, right? Mm-hmm. And so these two things, they work well in conjunction. But when you're dealing with 440, what it does is it's a very sharp, subtle increment up on every single note. Mm-hmm. And this causes the cells in your body to literally go through a subtle kind of Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, trauma.
It's kind of like applying a bit of pressure so that when you release a little bit of pressure, there's a feeling of thankfulness, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is that when you apply pressure in this manner, your body yearns for something. It's kind of like if you're tired, you know you need to sleep. If you're hungry, you know you need to eat, et cetera, et cetera. There's certain kind of basic bodily functions that just, are cause and effect. But when you're talking about something that is foreign, like being bombarded by an unnatural frequency, and I'm talking about it comes from the internet, the radio waves, televisions, the lights in your ceilings, the LEDs. There's an old school LED that they canceled the manufacturing of them in China, and they're now very, very expensive, that are considered natural light because they're harmonically tuned correct, and blah, blah, blah. The situation is a lot deeper and more, I guess, blanketed than a lot of people are aware of, which is fine, and I don't expect people to know this. The only reason that I became privy to it is in my quest to learn why certain feelings came from certain sounds and songs. Like, if you're sad and you hear a certain song, it might put you in a better mood. Or,
exactly.
Vice versa. You might hear a song that's sad and you might relate to it because you're feeling sad, which inevitably makes you feel unalone, which inevitably makes you go back towards a positivity in your way, right?
Exactly.
And I wanted to understand why it did it. Was it the lyrics? Was it the bass line? What was it? The rhythm, the melody? It didn't seem like something that could just be so cut and dry, where you could just be like, well, DCBG is going to make everybody happy, or et cetera. Like, regardless if it does, I'm just using it as just open examples, right? Now, when I realized that it had nothing to do with just the song or the sound, but it was actually the tuning. It was actually the vibration, how it interacts with physical matter, right?
Yes.
Everything works in correlation.
Exactly.
Everything from light, sound, aromatics, and physical properties from, and different kinds of densities from liquids on down. And all these things are just octaves and they're tones and notes, and everything works in sevens. You know, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then do again and
And it
continuous.
all comes
And it
back
works
to.
in octaves. Yeah, and it works in octaves, going up to light and
Yeah.
all the way down to the most dense things you can imagine.
Yeah.
And so I figured through a lot of like research and reading different papers from physicists and different scientific studies into how sound is, you know, how it correlates with other things, everything from anti-gravity technology and electromagnetism and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I went in like a student, you know, I didn't approach it on a metaphysical or spiritual level. I'm not a religious guy, so I like facts. I like things to be proven to me, you know? However, I don't discredit anything that's ever been written on any level, because everything has its bearing and meaning a lot of the time in metaphors, you know? So I'm like, cool, let me see how this works. And I was lucky enough to meet this guy who produced for Earth, Wind, and Fire and Stevie Wonder and all these kinds of cats. I was watching earlier and talking about doing your head like this thing. Yeah, I was dying. It's so real. But, you know, he produced for these cats back in the day. And so I went out to his studio out in Hemet, and he had like 2 tons of sand, like beach sand, in the walls and floors of the floating room of the studio. And it was just like he would make guitars with the frets all done in seashell. And he just was very particular hippie dude, you know, like everything barefoot and Buddhas everywhere. And we were going through some of my records at the time, and he's like, man, you know, I'll never forget how he said it too. It's so funny, like just all hippied out, right? And he's like, man, when you understand that 432 and that 528, you're gonna help us save the world, man.
Yeah.
And I looked at him like, what is this the old man talking about? Because I was completely oblivious. I understood innately, but I didn't understand the science at this moment. And this moment set me down the scientific path of trying to learn about it, and understanding, you know, the incremental importance of any, say the color, or say center C, right, to the power of 144,000.
Forest green, baby. Forest green.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And that means that a sound can affect light, which means light can affect sound, which means they can all affect aromatics, which means they can all also affect physical property. Now, light, it takes very intense ways for it to interact with solids, because solids, they block light, right?
But not sound.
Passes through everything.
Exactly.
Everything. So as I started to get deeper into research of it, I realized that it was like when you're in tune with nature, right? Musically, right? When you're creating music that's truly in tune with nature. I'm not talking about organic sounding music. I'm not talking about the genre. You could make Justin Bieber pop music this way. It doesn't matter what the music genre or the sound, the song is. It's
You
totally
actually went in
relevant.
recently and
It's about
retuned their things over at their studios.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
And you tune it just to nature, you know.
Yeah.
And it's part of the balance and harmonics of nature, and this works on a universal scale.
And that's one of the
this is
things I like when you're talking
real.
about those solfeggio frequencies, because as you know, like I perform a lot of sonic alchemy, and when I do
Absolutely.
sonic
Yes, I do
alchemy
know.
on medicines and on natural medicines, I tune them to the solfeggio frequencies, which you spoke about earlier: 174, 285,
Amazing.
396, 417,
Yeah.
528, 639,
Yeah,
741, 852, and the God frequency 963. And
Yeah,
I've
that's
even
that's
taken things, and it will actually, by tuning them to these frequencies and by performing sonic alchemy, it will even change the flavor and the smell of certain medicines after
absolutely.
they've been through the process of the
When you-
sonic alchemy.
Absolutely. You know, everybody cooks, you know, mostly. I'm sure some people light cornflakes on fire just by pouring in milk, you know.
Right.
But many of us, we all cook, right?
Now that's a fire.
It's everything is trial and error at first, right?
Yeah.
But if you have really good ingredients, right? Really good vegetables, good cuts of meat, if you eat meat or not, you know, I'm whatever, so I don't judge anyone. But you know, whatever it is, you have good ingredients, and you take care into making it, into spicing it, into adding the right things to it that complement each flavor. You know, I've been lucky enough to have, I think they call it molecular cooking. I think it's like out of Spain, bro. In Barcelona, there's this like 5 Michelin star restaurant. It's incredible. Like you have like 14 courses, you know, but it's like each thing is a precursor and foreshadowing to the next flavor. And it's literally like listening to a wonderful song, like a long 10, 11 minute long, you know, really progressive, interesting journey of a song, right? Like even say something like, say, Stairway to Heaven is a great example. Everybody knows this record. Okay, Stairway to Heaven is a great progressive record. You don't even realize that it's like 14 minutes long or something.
Which version? Which version? Because there's a
the original. The original.
No, I mean like the rock version, because there's a soul song called Stairway to Heaven too, and then there's the rock song.
Really?
Yeah, you know.
That came out before
Stairway to Heaven, step by step.
No, I mean Led Zeppelin.
Okay, Led Zeppelin.
I'm talking about Led Zeppelin.
It was actually, and so that album was
Zeppelin.
engineered actually by one of my late friends who passed away years ago, Andy Johns. He
Really?
he engineered Zeppelin's albums 1 through 3, and he produced Zeppelin's 4 album. His brother Glenn Johns did all the engineering for the Beatles.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, it makes sense there.
Yeah.
He's like, you need a job. I know these other guys.
Yeah. He did. Yeah, he did all Rod Stewart stuff,
Song,
Eddie Money, all those cats.
The reason I bring up the song is particularly because when you're talking about a multi-course, properly executed meal with the right ingredients, presented the right way, and the flavor is like explosion to next. It's like incredible. And we've experienced these things in movies where it's just so well done. And this is, if you really break it down, an attention to true natural harmonics with the color, the flavors, with the method, with the sound involved, with all the things. So when you're talking about changing the physical property of something, utilizing proper tuning, and then changing its aroma, but of course,
we did.
This is, be expected mathematically.
Exactly.
And so
on New Year's Eve this year.
And so for 10 years, I've been producing, or more now, I guess 11, 12 years. I've been producing with this tuning, with everything I do, and I find that I've witnessed it on enough dance floors that I've played in different places around the world, where I see the difference when you're playing in 440. Everybody's phones are up.
Yeah,
it's just a small comparable thing, right? But when you're playing in 432, their phones are in their pockets. They're still blasting, but they're communicating. They're together. There's this unity amongst all of us, Yeah, it's incredible. Like Sven Vath from Cocoon is someone that I found, like when I first met him in Ibiza, I was like, oh man, I'm so happy I'm not alone. And he looked at me kind of puzzled, right? And I said, I love to see 432 cats in the world. And he looked at me with this grin of like this devilish little grin, like, let's go get them,
Yeah. Like you're talking, it's interesting we're talking about food. Is this year, 1 second, this year, like for New Year's Eve, like for each course of the meal, we had a sound bath. And so there was a different course for sound bath. We had a Michelin chef cooking, and for each course of the meal, we had a sound bath, which was like really interesting, like having a different aspect of sound bath that curated to go with each portion of the meal. But like one thing I want to talk about is like an experience. We have a mutual friend named Damien, who is deaf.
Yeah.
And tell us about.
It's funny you bring him up. He's the guy that confirmed all this to me.
Yeah, so tell them. So let's tell. Actually, you know what? We're gonna play a quick clip of one of your sets. We're gonna play a quick clip of one of your sets, like in the thing, and we're gonna rock it.
Oh yeah.
I recognize that guy. We're gonna let that rock, and we're gonna talk over it a little bit. So tell us a story about when Damien and 432.
So when I got back from Hemet, I was just, it was rattling through my head what this guy had said. 432, 528. Like, what is this hippie dude talking about? And it wasn't just because it was a hippie dude. It was like this guy had accolades. Like his resume was Guns of the Navarone. I can't deny when a man like this or a woman like this says certain gems. When I've been blessed to have momentary conversations with very, very particular people that have done profound things on this planet in art, music, science, politics, etc., that have bestowed me with some really interesting gems, and I take this I put them in my ninja bag and I roll with this,
You take the gems and put it with the holograms.
Claro, so it's like, I want to make sure that whatever that is, I need to understand it, because it's not like they're giving me some, they're not schooling me on something. It's almost kind of like they see a certain aspect of understanding at like the level that I might be at in my understanding. And so they give me that little thing that makes the glint, that makes me look up and know, oh my God, I've got to reach for that next. And then I climb more. And this is how I think we advance better. And so, excuse me, when he told me this, I remember going home and I'm sitting there thinking, like, what is this guy talking about? And I get on the Google and try to figure it out. And I'm like, all right, well, this is interesting. It wasn't a lot of documentation on it. There was some stuff about the whole with the Nazis inventing 440 and implemented by the BBC and the American government and blah blah blah. And then on some stuff about it being original and through Pythagoras and how that's connected to pi and all this. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna try this, because if it's directly related to proper physics and proper mathematics and fourth dimension understanding of geometry, then I'm like, I can't just like ignore it. And why? Because I want to make a hit record and do what they're telling me. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm the one that tells the major labels to kick rocks. So it's like, I have to learn this.
Barefoot.
So I go in, I start mixing it.
And then so like, I'm
messing with this for a few months. And Damien ends up coming by one day. And we call him High Def, because he's been deaf since birth. Super cool cat. Like, he's like that guy that's in everything. I party with him in Ibiza, Amsterdam, Miami, LA, New York, like you name it. Like
he's a staple.
He's everywhere. Yeah, you open up a lid and all of a sudden Damien pops out.
Like, how the hell did you get here? The loudest deaf person, by the way, the loudest deaf person you will ever meet. He's louder than any person with hearing. Like, he like, and talks more than any person with hearing.
Right. So it's so funny. So Damien, he's over and he's all like, he's like, play me some music, but and I'm like, why? Like, you can't hear a thing, bro. Like, I'm not gonna play you some music. He's like, yeah, but you have a nice system. Like, I'll feel it. I'm like, fair enough. Okay. So I just have to press play on whatever I had been producing on that day. But because I've been working in this tuning for the last few months, this track was in that tuning. So I'm still experimenting with this thing, right? And I swear to God, it got in like 10 seconds, 4 bars or something. And he stopped, hits me on the shoulder, and he stops. I'm like, what? He's like, how do you know about 432? And I'm like, how do you know?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, because I'm deaf. I don't hear anything. I only feel. And 432, he's like, it makes me feel complete. It makes me feel centered. It makes me feel relaxed. He's like, 441 is kind of like driving and reading at the same time. You want to throw up. And I'm like, that's crazy. He's like, when you drive long, like go for a road trip and you listen to like just modern music, how it's like you're always wanting to stop, you're restless, you're smoking, it's just like this, I'm like, yeah. He's like, but listen to oldies and you could drive for hours and just be like rolling. So I tried that one time and I'm like, he's not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm testing all these ways, like on dance floors all over the world, from Brazil to Berlin, from Paris to
Valley Village,
Lake Tahoe, everywhere for 11, 12 years now. And it's like, I see that it works. I see that it's true. And I also see that a lot of the majors, they don't realize that this is important for their record sales. The reason that a lot of their artists don't last very long is because you can only handle so much pressure for so long before the people look for some other option, hoping that is their placebo. Not realizing what they're falling into. It's like more meds to get off meds to get off meds to get off more meds. It's that kind of thing, that cycle. Whereas the way we do it is that we just like offer cure, and we just take you back to nature, baby. And it's super, super easy. You can do it with anything. I can teach anyone how to do it. It's such a simple thing. It's so simple how to do. It's just like click, click, and you're
so
done.
Easy.
And it's really easy. And there's a lot of manufacturers of like, DAWs like Bitwig. These guys, they completely get it. Ableton, they're a little bit Nazi as far as I'm concerned. Same with like Pro Tools. They don't allow a lot of change in these manners. But Logic all day. That's why the psychedelic trance guys are always in Logic, because they've been mathematically on this stuff since 1992. That's why the psychedelic trance scene is so separate from everything else, because they're like the guys that already built the spaceship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because they get it mathematically, they're all scientific how they approach it. I met a couple guys in Ibiza that were like Max Lafranconi and Unison, Pan Popison. These cats, they're GNC or GNC, I think it is. GMC. I don't know. It's not the supplement one, but the dance group. But all of them super switched on cats, man. Like it was like talking to Nikola Tesla's, about the sound. I'm like, what? Like, and because I had done so much research before I moved there, we were able to have like these really interesting conversations about it. And we all believe in the same thing. It all comes down to unity through music, but we have to be very particular because it's not just a slogan, honor, love, respect. loyalty. These aren't tattoos.
Yeah.
You know? These
And
are
that's
real
one thing
action
is back
words,
before music started really going to that fully, is that's when people were dancing more. Both of us originally come
Look at
from
disco. Disco was all
disco.
in 432.
Yeah, and then both of us come from
All
the
of it.
hip hop culture, and even early, like a lot of early hip hop
Early hip hop was too, because
was
it was
done
all
432,
sample
and that's when cats, instead of
well,
shooting
because
each
it was
other,
sampled,
they would
bro.
have dance battles
Bro, exactly. When I used
instead
to
of
produce on an MP3, okay, I would take I crazy vinyl, right? Amount of vinyl back at my parents' house and stuff. I didn't bring them with me around the world because, yeah, I mean, if you've ever traveled with vinyl, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I need my muscles for other things.
Your sense of humor is warped enough. You don't need warped records as well.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so it's like, but we would sample vinyl into the MPC, and then we'd be, trying to make bass lines or match it with other like keys from different keyboards or whatever else, right? This is back in like, I don't know, like 98, 2000s type thing, And bro, the frustration that I would find trying to get my bass line from my keyboard to match my sample, I'm like, why is this a problem? Why does the sample sound flat? Or why does the bass line stuff and everything else sound sharp? And it used to drive me crazy. And we'd end up having to try and pitch up the sample, which would change the speed because it's before all of the variable stuff, right? So we'd be like trying to get a thing to do it to the point where we eventually would detune our synthesizers so that we could actually play along with the samples properly, because the samples sounded fresh. And if you sped them up too much or slowed them down too much, like even that little increment, if you weren't working within the same parameter of tuning, all we'd find is that it sounded crappy. And it lost that magic. And the great thing about house music is that they never pitched anything. It was like they would take that disco sample, it's at 120 beats per minute, they'd loop it, they'd throw drums over it, go.
So are you a pitcher or a catcher?
What's that?
Are you a pitcher or a catcher?
I don't play baseball. I'm kidding. We play hockey.
Guard the net.
Dog sledges.
Way to guard the net on that joke.
Oh yeah, I'm good, right? I tell you, man, I see lots of things.
Sure enough. So one of the interesting things about
it's 2020. We got a guy that sniffs people. He's asleep, and another guy who wants to change his name to the sleeping sniffing guy just so he can win. It's really crazy going on.
Yeah. It's wild out here. So one of the interesting things about
Mr. Octopus, we're kicking it.
One of the things I know about you that people may not know, like you've done all the big venues, you've done all of the big clubs.
Quite a few, not all yet, but
a lot. But it's always been important for you to still have just the down, dirty, underground things where people, where just the communities can come together and dance, and there's always a wide range of individuals from like different walks of life that are coming into those. And why is that aspect of the music still such an important part for you, even though you've had the success that you've had?
I think that I don't do it for the fame or the fortune or the whatever else. Like, all I ever asked the universe is that I would,
you do it all for the cookie.
Would grant me, if I could be granted the ability to sustainably do it, because I think this is why I've gone on this strange path that's so, like, looking even back at it myself, I'm like, I would have never predicted any of it. Not a thing. If you talked to my 18-year-old self and told me I'd be having this conversation talking about all these things, I would have laughed at you and told you to kick rocks, old man, like this. Because it was like, you're tripping. I wasn't that guy. I wasn't trying to do this. I've never been attracted to that. I was like more the outcast and like the, mixed race, different dude that had to kind of be a chameleon in order to fit in and to try and like, whatever. And I've always had haters and this, that, I just got used to a different kind of way, and it was like, all right, no worries. Just do the damn thing. Grab your surfboard and just go surf the universe. So I just only ever asked for the ability to sustain it. So if that means that whatever I'm doing, the sustainable platform that is necessary is larger or smaller, that is just what it is. I'm not in it for I don't want to. I don't care if people scream my name. What I care is that they don't scream at each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if people want to see me. I care that they want to see each other.
Exactly.
Like, this matters to me because, like, at the end of the day, man, like, what? Like, I'm 43. I look like I'm 29. I don't age at all. It's like kind of hilarious.
I know somebody like
Look
that.
at you. You're the same way. You're the same way. You're like, but it's like I believe that, I'll be here until I need to be here.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to go to the next wherever and go do the same job to help them, then cool, we go. There's no pasa nada,
Yeah, that's one of the things I've always loved about
for
music.
the same reasons that Jay-Z and all these kind of cats are here for. Like, I don't really care.
Yeah, one of the things I've always loved about music is that, especially when I used to rock with my live band, is that I always felt like when I'm on, when you're in that zone, you feel like you're a fulcrum between
for sure.
between the divine and between the audience. And it's
you're
like that space in between that actually becomes a connection point, point where people can fully tap in,
Agreed.
Yeah.
And it's not that we all don't have that ability. It's just a matter of like what you've dedicated yourself to quiet your mind in order to give. It's different. Everybody gives different things. Like, there's times where I'm like, sad or whatever, and a friend will just be there for me.
Mm-hmm.
You've done the same. Like, there's been times where I go through a breakup and it's like the next day you're like, we're making a record together and you're just there for me as a friend.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that very much, my man. A lot, really, really do. Because these types of things
I love you,
matter.
brother.
To give inspiration is one of the sexiest things I've ever seen in my life. I've been given inspiration, and when I do something with it, and they see me doing something with it, and they look at me like, "Go get him, kiddo," and I look at them like, "Oh man, yeah," and then vice versa. I've said 1-2 words that for me were just kind of like normal in passing to someone, and then I run into them 10 years later, and they're like, "Man, you changed my life," and I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude?" I didn't do anything. I haven't seen you in 10 years. How did I change your life?
Yeah.
I didn't give you some crazy advice. They're like, "Yes, you did." I was like, "What did I say?" They're like, "You said do what you love all the time." I said, "Well, yeah, you should." And they're like, "Yeah, but I do that." And now I blah, 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 blah. And there's crazy things some of my people have done where I'm like, what? Nice. Like, dude, that's so dope.
Exactly.
Get them, baby. I love it. I love it. I love it. Especially if it causes positive growth in our society and within our relationship to the planet and each other. Like, this matters. Otherwise, we're just going to be grounded forever and humans will just be stuck here instead of like, joining the galactic family.
Yeah, so we'll check it out. We're almost out of time. I have a couple more questions.
Sure.
Any recommendations for music that people should listen to that'll give them a sense of unity? Like 2 or 3 song recommendations that you think our viewers should go check out that will help them feel more united with the rest of the world.
Wow, that's crazy. I don't know. I just usually just say just go to Houstronaut on Beatport and everything on there, because I curate really amazing artists.
Beautiful.
I've got like 125 or 127 artists on the label now. So
beautiful.
We have a lot of really good stuff. So Houstronaut is always a wonderful, wonderful source of this. I'm really feeling the guys from oh my God, sorry. Ibadan Records from Berlin is techno. This is Jerome Sydenham's label. Amazing stuff. Also Ballroom Records out of Berlin as well. This is my friend Kaiser Sose. Marcus is an incredible producer. Very switched on.
Is that Mr. Bear in the background?
Yeah, it's always Mr. Bear in the background. He's darking at something. I don't know. Yeah. And like other than that, I always love things like anything from Radiohead and Portishead, anything from Tool, believe it or not, anything from old school stuff too, like anything pre-1980.
Stevie, Marvin, Bob, like
Prince, even Nirvana actually were part of a proper thing. They got it really clear. There's a lot, man. There's a lot. Some of the Doors stuff before they got a little bit interjected. Early Bowie is always great. Early Kool and the Gang is always great. De La Soul is a great one.
I love De La.
That kind of thing. Man, there's many.
Stakes is high, baby. So, where else? Where can they find you? You spoke a little bit about Houstronaut. Tell them where they can find you as Motoe Haus, and find your label.
Yeah. Well, Houstronaut, which is spelled Haus and not like HOU, you know, like HAUS, right? So
Hmm.
Houstronaut is houstronaut.com, on Instagram at Houstronaut, Facebook, everything like this. Also, like on Spotify, I don't know if you can search the label. I think it's only based on our artists because of the way that Spotify does the industry.
Right. And that's a whole nother show.
Sorry, it's just that they're complete
Yeah.
thieves. But so anyway, yeah, and obviously motoehaus.com, which is Motoehaus, and that's
HMOT.
yeah, yeah,
Take you to techno.
the MO, the TO,
OE.
the EH.
HAUS.
so,
Motoe
so
Haus.
yeah, .com or Motoe Haus on Instagram and Facebook and all the good stuff, and obviously Spotify and Resident Advisor. Yeah, it's just Google it. And
Do you have any live streams coming up anytime
man.
soon?
Pardon me.
Do you have any live streams coming up?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna be doing something for my Houstronaut Live platform. We just found a really sweet location down here in LA, so we're gonna go and do some really interesting thing there for a sunset thing, and then I'm gonna do another one for you actually for this show. We're gonna do one. I think next week. We just gotta figure out when to do it, and then we can do it from my house wherever we can figure something out.
We'll figure it out.
And then we'll do maybe an hour or whatever.
Perfect.
And then what else? I just did one on Halloween for EEFM in Toronto, and yeah, I was just doing one for
those Canadians.
state in Moscow. It's just never ending, man. But yeah, Motoe Haus on everything, Houstronaut on everything.
All right,
I'm
so
not very good at
for all of our viewers, we're going to have a special treat later on. Motoe sent us a couple of his live streams. In a couple of hours, we're going to be playing one of his live streams, the one that's actually right there, playing on the screen. We're going to be playing one of his live stream, is not live now, but one of his previous streams, so that y'all could jam, so y'all could get unified. Call your mama, call your best friend, call your girlfriend, call your boyfriend, call your wife, have your wife and your girlfriend sit next to you together to watch to watch the stream tonight. Jam, you'll have an amazing time. Motoe, brother man, I love you as always. Thank you for dropping science. Thank you for dropping love. Thank you for dropping wisdom, some knowledge.
Sorry if I talked your ear off.
What's new?
I'm always alone in the studio. When I finally have human interaction, I'm like, guess what I learned?
Exactly. It's all right. I'll talk your ear off later. We take turns doing it.
Too. I'm never mad at that, baby.
Yes. All right. Motoe Haus, everybody. This is Anthony Powers. We're here, Togetherness Media. We hope y'all had an amazing time hanging out with us. Happy Friday. As a reminder, as always, be divine. You are loved.
Ciao.